What do narcissists secretly hope happens after they discard you? Have you ever wondered what goes on in the mind of a narcissist after they abruptly end a relationship? Does any part of them feel remorse or sadness at the loss? Or is their ego too inflated to care about the damage left in their wake? If you're interested in learning more about what happens to narcissists after they discard you, I have another video fully covering that topic. You can watch it right after this one by clicking the link is in the description below. The truth is, narcissists have very twisted hopes for what happens to their victims post-discard. Their thought process around relationships is far removed from normal human emotions, like empathy, grief, or personal growth. Shattered sense of self. They hope their cruelty shattered your self-image and belief in your worth, keeping you trapped in low self-esteem, unable to move on. False self. They want you stuck, mirroring their inauthentic existence, rather than rediscovering your authentic self without them. Wasted energy. They love it if you waste time trying to prove to others that you were the true victim, diverting focus from your own healing. Let's dive deeper into the dark machinations of the narcissist's mind after they discard their victims. Understanding what makes them tick can help us heal and break free of their manipulation. Most people hope for closure or mutual growth after a relationship ends. But narcissists operate by a different set of rules devoid of empathy. They pursue more sinister agendas for their victims, driven by their inflated egos and callous nature. By recognizing what they ultimately hope for, we can reject their programming and take back control of our healing journey. The bullets below summarize the three main hopes swirling through a narcissist's mind post-discard shattered identity: that their abuse destroyed your self-worth, keeping you stuck in turmoil even after escaping them. False self, that you will mirror their dysfunctional way of living rather than reclaim your authentic self. Misdirected focus, that you waste time trying to prove their abuse to others rather than focusing on your own healing and growth. The narcissist's tragic inability to relate to others with empathy and compassion compels them to hope their victims never recover from the abuse inflicted. But we can contravene their twisted desires by rebuilding our sense of self, living authentically, and directing energy inward to our healing. Nothing shakes a narcissist more than being rejected by their target. Narcissists have an inflated sense of self, believing themselves to be irresistibly charming and attractive. They view other people as mere objects to be acquired and controlled in order to support their grandiose fantasies. As such, they expect their targets to fall willingly under their spell, satisfying their endless need for validation, praise, and control. When you start to pull away, refusing to play into their manipulation and games, it sends their world into a tailspin. They are baffled as to why you would reject them when in their minds they are clearly superior beings that everyone should automatically adore. This blatant rejection terrifies the narcissist as it surfaces their deepest insecurities under that smooth facade. For example, a woman was love-bombed by her narcissistic boyfriend when they first started dating. He lavished her with flattery, expensive gifts, and promises of an amazing future together. Soon after, he began putting her down, controlling her every move, and isolating her from friends and family. Feeling lonely and miserable, the woman found the courage to break up with him. Shocked that she was now rejecting him after initially being so doting, the narcissist desperately tried convincing her to stay, even promising to change his ways. But seeing through the manipulation, she refused to back down and went no contact. Enraged, the narcissist claimed no one would ever love her like he did. The rejection had punctured his inflated ego by exposing his deepest fear of being unlovable. In another case, a man, discarded by his narcissistic wife after years of emotional abuse, struggled to make sense of her suddenly cruel behavior. Though she initially idealized him during their courtship, the devaluation and control began soon after marriage. Her recent affair and request for divorce left him reeling. Desperate to nurse her battered ego, she tried convincing friends and family that he drove her to cheat due to his failures as a husband. However, her efforts to smooth over the rejection failed to alleviate the blow of being left first. The man focused on healing while ignoring her ongoing attempts to hoover him back in order to regain power. Narcissists depend heavily on predictability in order to maintain their facade of being in control. They orchestrate situations meticulously to their advantage by deploying manipulation tactics tailored specifically to elicit expected reactions from their targets. Their ability to calculate and predict responses is key to gaining leverage and power over others. When you surprise them with unexpected behavior, you are puncturing huge holes in their carefully controlled narrative, exposing the fragile ego hiding behind the curtain. Unanticipated reactions baffle the narcissist, as they reveal there are facets of the target's inner world that elude their grasp. Whether it's remaining unfazed by something that normally upsets the target, calling them out on bad behavior, or acting counterintuitively positive in the face of their hostility. The target's unpredictability throws them off and stops them in their tracks. It also delivers the devastating message that they do not know or control the target nearly as well as they thought. This lack of complete control over the target threatens their entire worldview and sends them into a panic. For example, a narcissistic husband who controlled his wife's every move was convinced she was helpless without him. During yet another angry rant, the woman surprised him by smiling calmly and suggesting they go out to dinner. Flustered, the narcissist stammered that she should be cowering in fear from his outburst instead. Her unexpected composure exposed his loss of power, revealing his words no longer impacted her as they once had. Rattled by unpredictable reactions going forward, the husband walked on eggshells, fearful of her continued indifference to his typical emotional manipulation. In another case, a narcissistic mother routinely used neglect, guilt trips, and verbal attacks to control her adult daughter. Her daughter struggled to set boundaries out of financial necessity while working minimal wage jobs. After landing higher-paying work, the daughter unexpectedly moved out quickly when her mother was away for the weekend. Blocking her mother's number, she sent a text stating she would only communicate through email going forward and would not tolerate any further drama or abuse. Her mother's furious attempts to re-establish contact failed, causing her to instead spread lies about her daughter being mentally unstable. Though stressful, the daughter focused on her peace of mind instead of the narcissist's upended reality without her former source of supply and control. There is no injury more devastating to a narcissist than being left first by their significant other. Narcissists see themselves as superior beings entitled to have their needs met on demand by those in their lives. They handpick targets who they deem as useful sources of endless narcissistic supply. Things like money, status, attention, admiration, and sex flow from their targets to satisfy their enormous egos. In return, the hapless targets receive only crumbs of conditional love and shallow affection. Narcissists truly see themselves as the catch in the relationship. So when you turn the tables, reclaiming your power and ending things abruptly on your terms, it pulls the proverbial rug out from under the narcissist's grandiose self-image. Accustomed to toying with others' emotions through cycles of idealization and devaluation, they are shocked when they find themselves on the receiving end for once. Now they are the ones left reeling from rejection, confusion, and powerlessness, feelings they believed lesser people like you experience, not superior beings like themselves. For example, a woman was married to a narcissistic spouse who subjected her to affairs, indifference, and verbal attacks for years. Whenever she threatened divorce after abusive episodes, he would pull out all the stops with hollow apologies and excessive gifts or compliments, convincing her to stay with his charade of changed behavior. When discovering yet another affair, she realized his feigned remorse always gave way to the same deception, so she abruptly moved out and went no contact without warning. Shocked by her unexpected departure, he desperately tried reconnecting to no avail. Her indifference left him questioning his perceived superiority and magnetism that supposedly captured targets for life, no matter their misery. As another illustration, a boyfriend intermittently discarded and hoovered his girlfriend for a decade whenever she grew tired of his verbal batterings. Just when she reached her limit, he would reel her back in with profuse apologies and a return to the initial idealization stage. During the last hovering attempt, after a particularly nasty, insult-laden rant from him, she changed her number and moved without providing her new address. She mailed back his desperate love letters unopened. Her unpredicted lack of interest in reconciling posed a severe injury to his inflated ego. Accustomed to dependable cycles of her always taking him back before, his loss of status delivered a shocking reversal, neither anticipating. One of the hallmark traits of narcissism is an inherent sense of intellectual superiority and self-righteousness. Narcissists truly believe their thought processes and beliefs reflect the highest truth in any given situation. Even when presented with clear evidence contradicting their stances, they find ways to dismiss and invalidate anything that threatens their ironclad grip on being right. It's imperative for them to uphold this external image of infallibility in order to prop up their grandiose false self. Given this intense need to be validated, having their opinions or statements directly challenged by someone they consider beneath them sends tremors to their very foundation. If you can dismantle their arguments using reasoning backed by evidence, it crumbles the platform they stand upon marked "smartest one here." For instance, a narcissistic father habitually stated controversial political opinions during family dinners, proudly presenting himself as an expert while aggressively dismissing any disagreement from others. One evening, his teenage daughter calmly posed thoughtful counter-arguments to his stances, while citing research studies she recently read. Flüsteret at her composed expertise countering his bombastic diatribes, the father abruptly left the dinner table in frustration. His departure exposed the fragile foundation underlying his assumed intellectual authority over the family. In another case, a narcissistic team leader at a tech company frequently stole subordinates' presentation ideas without credit, claiming them as his own original contributions during leadership meetings. During one such meeting, he presented a software optimization plan that a programmer named James actually developed independently. Noticing the stolen concept pitched as his leader's creation, James tactfully interjected acknowledgement of the unique algorithm his leader referenced, asking specific questions only the actual creator could answer. When his leader stammered and deflected instead, the line of thoughtful questioning politely exposed his leader's deception to the entire staff. The subtle, yet undeniable evidence of fraud pierced the presentation and his leader's fabricated image as an innovator. Narcissistic supply comes in many forms, but one of the most potent supplies is the emotional reaction they invoke in others, whether positive or negative. They are emotional vampires, feeding ravenously off of the anger, fear, sadness, shame, and even temporary joy that pours out of their victims. They purposefully provoke and stir the pot perpetually in order to manufacture their favored supply. When you go no contact emotionally and refuse to get sucked into their drama cycles, it snatches away their sustenance. A man endured years of drama manufactured by his narcissistic girlfriend, who routinely picked fights over insignificant events to trigger his anger and indignation. After recognizing her ploys for attention, he began responding to her outbursts with calm detachment rather than upset. He wrote in a journal when needing to process frustrations so as not to feed reactions to her face directly. After repeated attempts failing to elicit emotional reactions from him, she demeaned him as boring and pathetic before discarding him for a new target. While painful in the short term, his cultivated detachment allowed faster recovery by offering no supply to keep him trapped in attachment beyond the relationship's termination. Another victim of emotional manipulation removed an abusive, narcissistic parent from her home after being berated yet again for not reading minds and catering to ever-shifting expectations. After escalating to verbal abuse, she gently but firmly told him to gather his things and leave, offering to order a rideshare vehicle. Despite vitriolic attempts to guilt and threaten her into reversing the decision, she held detached firmness while calmly repeating, "The ride was on its way." Her indifference to the tantrum shattered his assumed control, providing no narcissistic supply to debate or manipulate. She reported feeling empowered by responding emotionally, unlike exploitative past incidents. Mastering neutrality became her secret weapon against narcissistic hunger for drama. Recovering from narcissistic abuse is challenging, but possible. To interrupt these painful cycles, we must support one another in reclaiming our self-worth. If you resonate with my message of seeking radical healing through compassion, please share your story below. Thousands in this community have walked your path before and healed. Your experience can give hope and strength to those just starting the journey after narcissistic devaluation. By bonding through our tales of resilience, we break collectivized silence enabling predators. Let testimony of hard-won freedom pour forth despite society dismissing these wounds for too long. You possess power, helping targets revoke narcissistic curses through your victories, commanding acknowledgement. So, in solidarity and care, detail your travels escaping narcissism's twisted unreality. Voice impediments faced, epiphanies unlocked your cage, relapses suffered before escaping, and what finally shifted, enabling you to reclaim authority as guide inspiring fellow survivors now. Share your journey of healing in the comments below. Your story of gaining freedom can give strength and hope to others, leaving narcissistic abuse behind. By connecting through our tales of becoming free, we take power away from our abusers. Your experience has meaning for those just starting out on the path you have walked. Even if the road was long and difficult, your perseverance and recovery shows a way forward. Know that every painful chain can be broken in time. There is a community here ready to support each other. Please consider telling your story. It may be the lifeline someone needs today. Together we can heal.